Okay, welcome back to my Let's Play of The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. This is part 3 of my series. I'm starting from the Sanctuary today for a couple reasons. There are a few things that we are now able to access after getting some of the equipment from our previous playthroughs. We are able to use the Pegasus Shoes to our advantage near a rock formation just west of the Sanctuary. So if you head up on this ridge right here, you'll see this little cluster of rocks here, stacked, five rocks all stacked up right there. If you make a running start using the Pegasus Shoes and dash into those rocks, you find a staircase leading into a small cave. And inside this cave, there's a treasure chest that contains Piece of Heart number 6. So heading to Kikariko Village, there's just a small little bit that you can do with the Pegasus Shoes here. If you head down to the middle of town where that man in the red hat was standing, you can interact with him using the Pegasus Shoes. If you recall, whenever you walked up close to him, he would start to run away, but if you use the Pegasus Shoes, you're able to catch up to him. So you can't make a running charge at him, you'll stop as soon as you get in very close proximity to him, but if you just walk until he starts running, you can catch him right at the end of town. So it's funny because he's also one of the ones that believes that you actually kidnapped Princess Zelda, but he doesn't think you're that bad of a guy, so he gives you a little bit of a hint. He says you can run into a lot of things and you might find some treasure. So he suggests you try it on the branches of the trees here in town. So if you bash into this tree right here, you find a blue rupee. Heading back to where we started, the old lady with the broom has a small secret inside her house. This is another example of Link terrorizing the people that he's saving in Hyrule. You can set a bomb inside her house, and you can consider throwing the Cuckoos to safety. It's all up to you. Just a side note, there's also a 5th Cuckoo in this house underneath this pot. So you can access this small shed, and in the treasure chest you'll find some arrows. So now we are ready to proceed south of Link's house into the Great Swamp. There is also something that we can unlock there, but before I do that, I'm going to head back here just west of Link's house. You can find another formation of rocks. If you bash into those and head down in, you'll find a small fairy fountain. So if you have an empty bottle, it's a good idea to use the bug catching net and snag a fairy. As it stands, we already have one, so there's no use for it right now for us. But it's handy because it's right beside Link's house, so it's a good place to start and grab one if you need one. Just a little bit of slowdown in the Great Swamp. The frame rate drops just a little bit. Now you can see these bunny enemies that are jumping out of the grass. It's sometimes kind of fun to cut the grass underneath them. You'll get a funny little message whenever that happens. I'm just going to take care of this archer first. And then just watch where they go. They'll spawn at different places and jump out of the grass. but eventually they'll hop out of a spot that's close to you. And you can see that he isn't able to hide in the grass. So, he'll drop a heart. Just a nice little touch in the game. So head inside the structure in the Great Swamp and you see a treasure chest. So there are two ways you can proceed here. You can either move the blocks to access the treasure chest. Inside you'll find 3 bombs, but the greater treasure is accessed if you block the treasure chest and head into the room behind there. So inside the room, like the passageway to the sanctuary, you'll find 2 levers. If you pull the one on the left, you'll be ambushed. I believe it drops bombs on you. If you pull the one on the right, it releases the water and drains it out of the swamp. So outside in the shallow waters, you'll find piece of heart number 7. You can also see some fish flopping around. If you feel like being a good sport, you can grab one of the fish and take it to deeper water. So if you throw it in, the fish will thank you by tossing you a red ruby. Alternatively, you can pick up the fish and carry it all the way into Kakariko Village, where the bottle salesman will buy it off of you. I believe he gives you supplies. I cannot recall that for certain. But now we are ready to head into the Desert of Mystery. So on the cactuses you'll see vultures. There are hidden bombs in the ground. If you walk on those bombs, you will be blasted and take damage, but you are able to dash over top of them without taking damage. So make your way northwest through the desert, avoiding the Geldmans, sand creatures that live beneath the sand and attack Link. It's actually interesting. It's not quite a mistranslation, but something that was lost in translation, given that we have more knowledge about Zelda now. Geldman, originally in Japanese, is very similar to Gerudo. So approach the tablet on the stone dais here, and when you try to read it, you'll see that it is also in the ancient Hylian language, like the old man in the cave said it would be. But having the Book of Medora equipped, we can press Y to translate the book. Rather than translate the book, I meant translate the tablet using the book. So after making our wish, the statues move and we are able to enter the Desert Palace. Inside we see a number of enemies very common to the Legend of Zelda series. These first ones you see here are levers. And they've been in Zelda since the original for NES. So they're dispatched easily enough. Just ahead of here we see a Beamos statue. Unlike Ocarina of Time, there is no way to destroy a Beamos statue. You pretty much just have to avoid them. So a new enemy here, the Devil Ant. It's very similar to an antlion larva. So it emerges from a sand trap, and if you step into that sand, Link will be pulled in where the Devil Ant can attack him at close range. Some of the Devil Ants also launch fireballs at Link, if I recall correctly. Yes, the red Devil Ants launch fireballs. So this room up here is just a little bit of a trap. There isn't any real reason for Link to enter this room, other than just to explore and clear the dungeon. There's no benefit to entering here. In the next room, we see 2 green Igors, along with a few levers. If you remember, Igors are vulnerable to arrows in the eye. In addition to that, one pot thrown at their head will also kill an Igor. So you notice that this stone tablet here in the middle of the room, above the sand, it kind of looks like it's missing something. There are empty torches here that aren't lit, but even if you light them, nothing happens. There's a switch that'll make a treasure chest appear underneath this pot. And inside the treasure chest, we find the dungeon map. So inside this room we see a key, and just like the Book of Medora in the library, we can dash into that torch to release the key. There's also a telepathy panel where you can speak to Sahasrahla. He gives you the sage advice to make sure you find all the treasure in each dungeon, as if we never thought of that on our own. So heading back, in the southeast corner of this dungeon, there was a door that you can use that key on. Through this door there are a few Popa, as well as another Beamos statue. If you clear the Popa from the room, the door will unlock. In the treasure chest you find a compass. And in this long hallway there are a number of mounted wall turrets that shoot cannonballs at you. Just avoid the cannonballs and head up to find the big key. I always try to dash through there, just for the fun, to try to avoid the cannonballs, but more times than not, I end up still getting hit. So, depending on your mood, it's just better to be cautious. So now we're ready to explore the rest of the dungeon. We find this room right here with a Beamos statue centrally located and both the doors shut. There are no enemies to kill, but underneath this pot right here, we will find the switch to open the door. As well as the big treasure chest. It contains the Power Glove. The Power Glove powers up Link's ability to pick up items. So in this case, it lets him pick up gray rocks. It's not really a combat ability, but it lets you reach a lot more places in Hyrule. So we're ready to head out of the door in the southeast, excuse me, I misspoke, the southwest corner of the dungeon. But before we do, you can see another door that's shut up there. And there aren't any pots to lift, there aren't any enemies to kill. You can light those torches, but nothing will happen. You have to push this block right there to get that door open. And inside you'll find a small fairy fountain. So if you need to restore your hearts, grab a fairy, there you go. Also, before we head out of this dungeon, there is one door that I skipped. It is in the southeast corner, all the way at the bottom. It is just an exit to the dungeon, and because those statues moved around behind you, you aren't able to exit using the stone dais where we came in. So you can use the other door, this one right here, to exit the dungeon if you need to. So it takes you out onto the tongue of one of these statues where you can hop down back into the desert safely. So we are ready to head out of the other door. I am just going to dash back there as quickly as I can. Clear out these levers in the way. And we'll head outside. This statue exits onto solid ground on the ledge up above the desert. If you head south and avoid the buzzard here, you'll find piece of heart number 8. And again, that is 4 pieces of heart, which gives us 1 more heart container. So these are the gray rocks I was speaking of. You can now pick them up over your head. and toss them, which will allow us to reach a lot more areas in Hyrule. So inside we'll find the rest of the dungeon. Like the door where we left the first part, you need to push this block to proceed. Here we see a new enemy. It's kind of unique. It's floor tiles. So in later Zelda games they carried over this enemy, but pretty much you have a few choices. You can stand in the doorway and just swing away with your sword, or you can run around the room. They'll pretty much, whenever they launch themselves, they'll launch it where you're standing at the time that they set their trajectory. So if you just keep running in circles around the room, they pretty much will miss you most of the time. But it's just as easy just to stand in the doorway and wait. So underneath the pot in the bottom left side, we'll find the key that'll let us go upstairs. Head through this corridor, and we find another room filled with Popa. So take out each individual Popo, and the door will open. In this room you see some torches. It's not important that you light those torches, it doesn't really help you at all. But underneath this third pot is the key to the door at the north end. So in this room, we'll see more floor tiles coming to get us. So take them all out one by one. And after we're done, we will have to find another key to that door. So, the key is under the pot at the top right corner. And it brings us to a dead end with a red Igor. Remember, red Igors take 2 arrows and are impervious to pots. So, you see 4 torches here, and once you light all 4 of these torches, the wall will move, exposing the boss's lair. And the boss guarding the Pendant of Power is Landmole. So the important thing to remember when fighting Landmole is stay away from the diagonals. And if you're lucky, if you time it right, you can hit them a few times in the head each time that they emerge from the sand. Spin attacks do extra damage, so when you can, it's like hitting them twice most of the time. I believe it's like hitting them twice. So keep avoiding those rocks. And I think they're weak to ice. I'm gonna go ahead and try to hit one with the ice rod. Yeah, I want to say that ice does extra damage too. It's just hitting them with it is the trick. Because you do have to hit them right in the head. Now once it's just down to 1 left, they will shoot rocks off in all directions, so you have to be even more careful. And I am out of magic, so I can no longer use the ice rod. Just a few more hits, and this one should be taken care of. retrieve the heart container, and we have the Pendant of Power. Our hearts are restored, our magic is replenished, and we are ready to head for the Tower of Hera. Just a few things that we'll do on the next episode. We now have the Power Glove that will let us lift these gray stones, and that lets us reach a new area of Hyrule that is very important to exploring for the rest of the game. So tune in next time for episode 4. We'll explore a bit more of Hyrule's overworld and begin the ascent of the Death Mountain to reach the Tower of Hera. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.